Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today, we're finna react to the Rise and Fall and Rise Again of the Hell in a Cell. Without further ado, let's get right into this.
In just a few days, live from Atlanta, Georgia, the 10-month-long feud between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre is finally coming to an end at Bad Blood. After a 20-year hiatus, Bad Blood is finally back as a pay-per-view, and with it, just like every other Bad Blood in history, we're getting a Hell in a Cell match. But for the first time in a long time, Hell in a Cell finally feels right again. The first ever Hell in a Cell match took place at Bad Blood in 1997 between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. What could have easily been just another cage match, but with a roof and a ringside area, ended up being one of the greatest matches of all time and ended up setting in motion what would go on to be, in my opinion, the greatest match type in wrestling history. Hell in a Cell for me has always been my favorite match type of all time. Ever since I was a kid, this was my match.
I liked it, but me personally, I feel like Iron Man matches and handicap matches, not handicap matches, but last man standing matches, those are my favorite type of matches. I love last standing matches, but they ruined last standing matches. That Batista and John Cena last man standing match where he duct taped his feet to the pole, yeah, that ruined last man standing matches for me. But Iron Man matches, I can still fuck with, though. I still fuck with Iron Man matches for sure. And I quit matches. I quit matches, and I just said it. Iron Man matches are still my two favorite. Hell in a Cell has died down because they don't do the same shit they used to do in Hell in a Cells. Don't nobody bleed. Don't nobody die from the top of the cell no more. Don't nobody fall off the top of the cell no more. Yeah, I'm good on Hell in a Cells at this point in time.
If a Hell in a Cell was going down, I was trying to order that pay-per-view. If a Hell in a Cell was going down, you just knew that shit was going down. By the time I became a wrestling fan around 0405, this was the match in the WWE. But by the time I had become a wrestling fan, there was so much lore around this match type that as a kid, it almost seemed like some next mythical wrestling match. And growing up, I would see clips and videos of Shawn and Taker killing each other in the first ever match. Me and my friends would gather around and watch 240p quality videos of Undertaker throwing Mankind off the top of the cell, which, as we all know, this was a rite of passage growing up. Yo, I used to be so obsessed with this Hell in a Cell match. I used to have the video file downloaded on my PSP just in case I'm in the middle of nowhere and I just feel like watching Mankind die again. So as we learned the history of the match type, as we watched the clips over and over again, it just added to the magic of this magical match type where it felt like anything and everything could happen, and honestly it did happen. People getting thrown off the top, falling into tables, the ring breaking, weapons on fire. I remember the day I found out that there was once a 6-man Hell in a Cell match in 2000 featuring 5 of the greatest wrestlers ever, and Rikishi, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, this actually happened? And I would pray as a kid that maybe one day, just one day, we would get the 6-man Hell in a Cell again. Hell in a Cell matches just had so much lore.
That's what they
because
made
more
the
often than not,
Elimination
every Hell in
Chamber
a Cell in one way or another at that point hit. Yeah, there were a few shitters like Bossman and Taker and a few matches that didn't really need a Hell in a Cell, but more often than not, Hell in a Cell meant something. It made careers and it was the definitive feud ender. It was just the match type at the point, even so much so that when me and my friends would play SVR, yeah, the first few matches we would do a TLC match or a hardcore match or whatever, but we knew when it was time to settle something, when it was time for the finale, it was time for Hell in a Cell. And everyone knew that match was not going to end until someone gets tossed off and someone goes through the middle. The first Cell match I remember the build to as a kid was Batista vs Triple H in 2005, and I was so excited to finally be watching while Hell in a Cell was going down. Every week I would love the promos, and the hype got to me like a crack addict in the 80s. And this really was the perfect feud for a Cell match. It was a feud that had been building for years. Former stablemates, the teacher and the student, they already had a WrestleMania main event, they had a rematch at Backlash, the student won both times, it was personal, it was heated, and now it's time for the final match in the teacher's backyard. As a Batista fan, I was terrified of this match because I still vividly remember Jim Ross just hyping up how dangerous this match was, and more importantly, how Triple H at that point had never lost in a Hell in a Cell match before. He was 4-0, and they would just hammer this every single week, and I would just be scared shitless. I'm like, damn, Batista might be cooked. I mean, what else was I supposed to think after seeing these photos and videos of Triple H being some next Hell in a Cell demon? And luckily for me, this wasn't the only Hell in a Cell match that year, because we also got Randy Orton versus Undertaker in a feud that 110% deserved a Hell in a Cell match. Both those matches were so good, so violent, they were must-see, and they did everything they could to add to the lore of Hell in a Cell. It truly felt like there was hell in that cell. I mean, just look at the state of the wrestlers after the match. When these matches were over, it looked like they went to war. It looked like they barely survived, and this picture right here is iconic. Randy barely walking out alive, Taker in the shadows, the cell in full showcase. These matches were so hyped up, and when I was able to get the DVDs for these pay-per-views and watch these matches, they lived up in every single way. What was interesting was by the time I started watching these matches and started living through them, they had vastly changed from what they were in their inception, right? See, back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was all about the big spot, the stunt, someone falling off, some shock factor, just crazy stuff happening. And during this era, from 2002 and onwards, these matches became more like classic cage matches, these bloody, violent brawls. And it didn't really take away from anything. It didn't really affect my experience. Obviously, every time there was a cell match, I was praying and hoping that they would go outside the cell, somebody would get thrown off, somebody would die. But even though that never happened, I was never disappointed because what they did in the cell was so awesome. DX versus the McMahons was chaos. Batista and Taker was huge. You had the Hell in a Cell Godfather against Batista, who now at this point had been in a cell match. But that's what really stuck out when looking back at these matches. More often than not, like I said, these matches were delivering, but it was also special because you knew this was Undertaker and Triple H's match. Triple H and Taker were a part of every single cell match from 97 till 2008. This was their specialty, and it made sense because it was like, this match is so crazy and so violent. These two idiots have clearly conquered it, and these two are the only idiots who consistently want to take part of it. Hell in a Cell up until 2008 was perfect. Edge and Taker at SummerSlam was a classic. Once again, nobody fell off the top of the cell, nothing crazy like that. Instead, it was Edge trapped in the cell with Taker, and Taker getting revenge for all the torture that Edge put him through for over a year, doing literally everything that Edge did to him, back to him in the cell. And what's fascinating about this match is this match didn't have blood, okay? This did take place during the PG era, technically. This was the first ever PG pay-per-view they ever had, and they still delivered in every single way. So the future still looked bright. Little did we know, this was the beginning of the end. From 97 till 08, there had only been 14 Hell in a Cell matches on pay-per-view across 11 years, because more often than not, they usually saved it for feuds that deserved it. I don't know why Kevin Nash and Triple H took place in here, but hey, at least I had a really awesome promo video. More often than not, they did it when it made sense. Then in 2009, they ruined it all, because the idiots at WWE simply created a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell. This shit to this day still pisses me off. WWE in 2009 slowly began naming their pay-per-views after match types, and you know what? For some pay-per-views it works. I'm not gonna lie, it does, okay? But when they did Hell in a Cell, it was cooked. Hell in a Cell 09 took place, and on one night we got 3 Hell in a Cell matches. Like, yo, you would think I was the prime target for this invention, right? Like, I'm the prime target for this pay-per-view. I was a kid who was 11 years old. My favorite match type was Hell in a Cell. But guys, what is this? Even in 09, as an 11-year-old, this made no sense to me. CM Punk versus The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match opening the pay-per-view? What? Cena versus Orton in a Cell match? I mean, it kind of makes sense. The feud had been going on for a while, but did it really need Hell in a Cell? I don't know, kind of, but you would think that if a massive match like this was happening, Cena versus Orton in a Hell in a Cell match, this would be huge, crazy promoted, so much hype. This would be the main event, show closer. This would be hyped up for weeks and weeks, but it was just thrown together, and this wasn't even the main event, because the main event was DX versus Legacy in a Cell match, which was a pretty good match. I'm not denying that. I love the idea of these two rookies finally getting clapped in a Cell match against these legends, Hell in a Cell legends. I'm down, but when you have 2 other Cell matches on the show, everything just gets devalued. Especially when the show is called Hell in a Cell, so obviously the matches are going to be in a Hell in a Cell. There's no surprise factor. And this is what Hell in a Cell became for the next decade plus. We just got spammed with the most random Cell matches every October, whether we liked it or not. As a kid, I could name you every single Cell match from 97 till 08, and I still can. Post 09, I didn't know what was going on, and it was just tragic because this match, like I said, meant something. This was special. This was an attraction, and now we were getting matches like Randy Orton versus Sheamus. No disrespect to them, but did this really need to be in the Cell? No, but they just had to have one because it was October. It was Hell in a Cell pay-per-view month. I knew it was finished in 2010 when Kane and Taker were gonna have one just because it was time for the monthly pay-per-view. And it's like, this would be a huge, massive match once upon a time. Kane and Taker finally in the Cell. This would be hyped up like crazy. This is massive, but nobody cared because it's like, yeah, they're just having it because it's October. And they ended up having a decent one-on-one match. It didn't feel like a Cell match whatsoever. It was like the most non-Hell in a Cell match I'd ever seen Cena at that point, and the ending was just an angle to continue the storyline, but it just truly felt like so much wasted potential. Yo, it got sad. It got really sad. It was no longer an actual match type. It just became like a Call of Duty gun camo. It had zero effect on the matches and the feuds, because before you know, it's like, we're getting Mark Henry versus Randy Orton in the cell? What happened to the game I loved, man? And even when we would get some pretty good matches in the cell, such as Del Rio versus Punk versus Cena, super random, I know, but hey, it was a really good match. It was just kind of like, well, what's the point of the cell though? They're just in here because once again, it's October. They could have easily had the same exact match in any other match. And the thing is, the company knew this for sure. They 100% knew this, because when they did a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania between Triple H and Taker, suddenly they knew how to book cell matches again. Suddenly that match actually needed, and it didn't have to take place in October at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Suddenly the magic was back, and it was amazing. It was a great match, all-time classic, because the stipulation fit the occasion, and it was perfect because it was a surprise. Nobody expected it, but it made all the sense, and that's what made these matches special back in the day. When a wrestler challenged someone to a cell match, it was like, holy shit, oh my god, is that happening? The crowd's going nuts. Jim Ross starts tweaking, Jerry Lawler's all like, ah. It was a moment. But by this era, you just knew once it was October, I challenge you to a Hell in a Cell match. And the other guy's just like, oh yeah, I figured. Wait, what do you mean you figured? It's October, it's the next pay-per-view, duh. Of course, no one was ever going to be excited for this, because everyone and their mom knew what was coming. CM Punk versus Ryback, yay! We knew when the matches were coming, even if we didn't want it, we were getting it. If the feud didn't warrant it, didn't matter, you're getting a Hell in a Cell. 90% of the time, the matches didn't really need it. The cell was barely used in most of the matches. The match became so sanitized. And this is the thing, a lot of people blame, oh, PG ruined cell matches. It's like, I don't think it was the PG that ruined it, because WrestleMania 28 was still PG. SummerSlam 08 was still PG. There wasn't any blood in there. They still tweaked, they still did their thing. Hell in a Cell just stopped hitting because they were literally doing it for no reason. Every year, it was just the most random NPCs in these matches. No longer was Hell in a Cell a specialty for anyone. If anything, they should have taken this time to make it someone's specialty, make this someone's signature match. But no, every year, just the most random matches happening. Eventually, though, we did get some solid matches. Of course, I'm not going to deny that. I remember Seth and Dean being pretty good. Till the ending. I hate that ending. Lesnar and Taker in 2015 was the best one since Mania 28 easily. That match caught a lot of people off guard, and they really took it back to the classics and showed us what cell matches should be like. And definitely the second half of the decade, the matches did get better. They did try to get some more of the magic back, right? The tag team Hell in a Cell was awesome with the New Day and Usos. The women started having some really solid matches. The only problem was they eventually made the cell red for some reason. Oh my god. Why? Oh wait, that's not enough. No, that's not enough butchering of this match type that used to be special. Let's have a Hell in a Cell match, a match where people basically died in the past, and let's have it ended in no contest. What the fact that they even continue to have cell matches after this is crazy, because personally, if I ever booked some stupid shit like this, and I got the pushback that they did, I would have just destroyed the damn structure and never had a cell match after this. Now, Rollins and The Fiend was so bad that this could have been the last ever cell match, and honestly, people would have understood, because by this point, we knew the company did not care anymore whatsoever. They cared less than they even did 5 years ago, and they barely cared 5 years ago. That's how down bad we were. But fast forward to the early 2020s, and that just sounds weird to say, the early 2020s. But yeah, the matches did get better, I'll give them that. The cell was still red and it was still depressing, but I think by this point, so much time had passed since the golden era of the Hell in a Cell matches that we just kind of accepted it. I was like, alright, it is what it is. We lived with it. The days of the 2000 cell matches were gone. An entire generation grew up with Hell in a Cell in October being a random pay-per-view featuring random matches. It just became accepted, and I guess we were just happy with the decent match that we did end up getting. At least it wasn't CM Punk versus Taker anymore for no reason. And by June of 2021, we had officially reached the acceptance stage, when during the Thunderdome, we were getting a cell match on Raw and SmackDown, and the cell matches we did get on pay-per-view, yeah, they were solid. It just became normal, it became accepted, and the rise and fall and acceptance of the Hell in a Cell was finally complete. So leave the memories alone. But now in 2024, luckily for us, it seems like the stars are aligning once again, and it feels like the magic might be back. Since October 2021, there have only been 3 of these matches. Seth Rollins and Edge tore the house down in Saudi. The Cody and Seth match is iconic, which yeah, was it blessed by the torn titty? Of course, but regardless, a classic. And the Edge and Finn match, which if it didn't have that damn stoppage in the middle of it, could have been so good in my opinion. It low-key feels like the match of the Cell is coming back, and it's only right with Triple H at the Realm, this guy who was Mr. Hell in a Cell with The Undertaker once upon a time. It makes all the sense. The amount of Cell matches has slowed down so much to the point that there hasn't been one in over 500 days, and that all changes when Punk and Drew go at it in a few days. But thank the Lord the Cell is no longer red. Thank the Lord there is no Hell in a Cell pay-per-view anymore. And even though it might seem Bad Blood is gonna be that, the yearly Cell pay-per-view, I can just hope and pray that next year, if there isn't a Cell worthy match, they can still have Bad Blood without a Cell match. But I'm just excited, and it's just wild because finally, a feud that deserves a Cell match, a deep, personal, long-standing feud is finally getting the Cell match. And you just know these two are going to kill each other. And as the magic of the Cell slowly returns, I am hoping so much that they deliver here. I pray they drop a classic, and then we don't see the Cell for a while, and only bring it out when it needs to be brought out. But so far, everything seems like it's heading in the right direction. It seems like the rise and fall of Hell in a Cell happened, but it seems like we might be on the rise again. Think of all the...
That's because Vince is gone. Vince is gone. Vince was the problem. Now that Vince is gone, we can get back to making matches mean something.
Possibilities of the matches we might get. Think of how epic these storylines can be when the bomb is dropped that, hey, it's gonna be a Hell in a Cell match, bucko. In the comments down below though, let me know, what is your least favorite Hell in a Cell match of all time? What is the one match that just made you go like, what am I watching? What are we doing here? RIP Hell in a Cell, I miss the old days. Other than The Fiend versus Seth, okay, we know that's the worst. Other than that one, it's your boy Pav, aka Wrestling Gifts. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys soon with the next one very, very soon. Till then though, take it easy and stay safe out there, guys.
All right. That's just gonna about do it for this one, man. I will see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.